In this video, we're building a Dialog FX Chain using just REAPER plugins. This will be great for your podcast, your audiobook, or your YouTube video. This video is sponsored by Skillshare. They're sharing 2 free months of premium access to my viewers, so stay tuned to the end of the video to find out more. In this project, I have some unprocessed dialogue, and this is for a podcast. It sounds pretty good on its own, but there are many things we can do to improve it. So let's just have a listen to it as it is.
Hello and welcome to The Mastering Show. My name is Ian Shepherd. I'm a mastering engineer and I run the Production Advice website, where my aim is to help you get the best results recording, mixing and mastering your music. And this week I have a guest. It's a little off topic for mastering, but
All right, so this is completely unprocessed. On the master track, I do have a couple plugins that make this Loudness Graph work. This is a REAPER script that I really love. It's made by Haida. I would highly recommend this if you do any voice processing. I find this super helpful, but it's also helpful for many other things. Using this graph, we can see that it peaks around -17 LUFS momentary, and it goes down to about -20 or so. And then the peak level on the master track was hitting at -4. So it's not clipping, it's not too loud, but it's a little bit inconsistent. We're going to make an effects chain that kind of evens things out. It cleans up the sound. It removes noise, all that kind of stuff that makes it sound good. With an effects chain, the order of operations isn't always the order that you insert the plugins or the order that they're in. So I like to get the EQ done first and then go to noise reduction, and then go to compression. That's just how I like to do it. But the actual order of the plugins would be noise reduction, EQ, compression. So let's start with EQ. I'm going to insert the ReEQ plugin on the track, and we're going to see what we can do to improve this. 99 times out of 100, you're going to be using a low cut on a voice. So we're going to trim that down there like that.
And I run the Production Advice website, where my aim is to help you get the best results recording, mixing and
that probably won't make an audible difference for most of the words, but it's just going to get rid of any room rumble and stuff like that. If he bumps the mic, there's not going to be like a big boomy sound or anything like that. So this is a very subtle sort of thing. It's at about 100 hertz. I find that the entire vocal is a little bit dull sounding. So we're going to take the high shelf over here and bring this up.
And I run the Production Advice website, where my aim is to help you get the best results recording, mixing and mastering your music.
And we'll just compare this before and after.
And I run the Production Advice website, where my aim is to help you get the best results recording, mixing and mastering your music.
So there's a lot more clarity there, but there's also a little bit of sibilance that I don't want. Let's grab band number 5, which is a bell shape.
And I run the Production Advice website,
and narrow it
to help you get the best results recording, mixing and mastering your music. And this week I have a guest.
All right, so I just found some areas where it's kind of spiky, whistly.
And I run the Production Advice website, where my aim is to help you get the best results recording, mixing and mastering your music.
Okay, so it's clearer, but it also gets rid of that harshness that was there. Also going to adjust the lower mids.
And I run the Production Advice website, where my aim is to help you get the best results.
That makes his voice a little bit fuller. Let's compare before and after.
And I run the Production Advice website, where my aim is to help you get the best results recording, mixing and mastering your music.
I've processed Ian's voice so many times that I kind of know how it's supposed to sound, how we like to hear it. And so that little boost there really helps. Now let's look in the lower mid-range here and find some areas that kind of jump out and are just unflattering.
And I run the Production Advice website, where my aim is to help you get the best results recording, mixing and mastering your music. And this week I have a guest.
And to me, that sounds kind of like he's talking into his hands, cupping the mic sort of thing. And that's not a sound that we kind of want in this, so we're just going to pull that down a little bit.
And I run the Production Advice website, where my aim is to help you get the best results recording, mixing and mastering your music.
So let's compare this. No EQ.
And I run the Production Advice website, where my aim is to help you get the best results recording, mixing and mastering your music.
Doesn't sound overly processed, but it sounds closer to the ideal. So up next, we're going to noise reduction. On Ian's voice, I would say that this is pretty much optional. He has a very low noise floor in his room. If we loop just this quiet section right before he starts to talk, it's coming up at -50 on the master meter. So that's a very low noise floor. We can push that down further by using the ReaFir plugin, ReaFir. And we're going to change this mode to subtract. We still have this area selected with just silence there. It's on loop, and we're going to hit automatically build noise floor, enable during noise. We're just going to let this loop a couple times. Press stop again, uncheck that box, and now we've got a noise profile of just this section. And now that noise floor is actually pushed down to -64, so it's even better. And so now we'll just play this back and make sure that's not doing anything weird with the voice. There shouldn't be anything there, but I can show you what it's like if you do make a mistake with that.
Hello, and welcome to the Mastering Show. My name is Ian Shepherd. I'm a mastering engineer, and I run the Production of Device website.
So that hasn't changed the voice in any way. Let's just do this the wrong way, just so you know what could happen. So I'm going to select some area with voice in it, and then automatically build noise profile.
And welcome to the Mastering Show. My name is...
And now if we play this back.
Hello, and welcome to the Mastering Show. My name is Ian Shepherd. I'm a mastering engineer, and I run the production.
Definitely not the effect that we want for this. So just remember to take some very quiet section of the recording, build your noise profile on that, and then the rest of your dialogue should be cleaned whenever there's that low level noise. This isn't my favorite noise reduction plugin out there. I really prefer the isotope plugins for this, but this does do a good job if you're careful with it. If you find it is interfering with the voice a little bit, if there's less separation between the voice and the noise, you can hold down the control key or command on Mac and drag this down a little bit. And that will further push that noise profile away from the voice. It won't be as extreme. It won't be as kind of effective as at removing the noise. I also don't like that this plugin adds in a lot of latency. That's this setting here, the 4096. We can lower this. It's going to kind of lower the quality of that noise reduction, but it will reduce the latency. And it's really just like start and stop delay, that sort of thing. You won't be able to record a vocal through this and hear it with noise reduction applied. There are other plugins that can do that pretty well. The next step in noise reduction is a gate. And again, this is kind of optional, depends on the voice. But what we want this to do is just to automatically mute the vocal whenever, or the dialogue, whenever it's going below a certain point. So in this case, it's going to take these quiet areas, turn them down to complete silence, and also clean up some of these breaths that are here.
Website where my aim is...
So we're just going to set this gate so that the threshold control in ReaGate is above the sound of that breath. Okay, and we'll just play that back.
I'm a mastering engineer, and I run the Production of Device website, where my aim is to help you get the best results recording, mixing, and mastering your music. And this week I have a guest.
So not everyone likes to remove the breaths completely. What we can do kind of as a middle ground for that is to take the dry signal and bring it up to about -20 or so, and let's hear that. It's going to let in some of the original ungated signal.
Production of Device website, where my aim is to help you get the best results recording, mixing, and mastering your music. And this week...
So we can still hear the breath, but it's turned down by like 20 dB. So this breath is down at -47. And if we turn off the gate, it's at -26. So this is an important thing to do, especially if you're going to get into compression, which is the next step. So just to recap what we've done so far, we've got ReaFir on here to clean up the any broadband noise, any constant noise in the signal. We're using ReaGate to push that noise even further lower, and also kind of clean up breaths and things like that. We're letting some of the breath through, or some of those quieter areas through, by bringing up the dry control on here. ReaGate it's basically an auto mute, so it's going to mute anything that's quiet. So bringing this up lets some things still through, unprocessed, but at a lower level. And then EQ to remove the lows, kind of clean up some weird resonance sort of thing, boxy sounds, and any of the harsh S sounds, while also bringing up kind of the overall brightness of it. Next up, we're actually going to use two compressors. We're going to bring in one recomp. We're going to rename this. We're going to go to rename FX instance. We're just going to call this one limiter. We're going to set the ratio on this one to 10. Now we'll bring down the threshold, and we're just looking for, on the gain reduction meter, which is right here in red, we're looking for just maybe 2 to 3 dB of gain reduction on this meter. And so we're going to lower the threshold until we see that. My waveforms here, these orange parts are kind of the loudest points. So we're going to try to knock those down a little bit.
Hello, and welcome to the Mastering Show. Hello.
So that's pretty close. We're going to bring it up just slightly.
Hello, and welcome to the Mastering Show. Hello, and welcome.
And we'll check on another section that doesn't have any of those orange bits.
My aim is to help you get the best results recording, mixing, and mastering your...
And so we can see that it's not touching this at all because this is below the threshold. So it's just these loud parts. It's being turned down by a couple dB.
Hello, and welcome to the Mastering Show. My name is Ian.
We can maybe go a little bit further than that, but I'm pretty happy with that.
Hello, and welcome to the Mastering Show.
So it's taking off 3 dB of the loudest parts, and it's doing that in a very transparent and quick way. Next, bring in another recomp. We'll name this one Compressor. And this one is going to be used to even out the differences between the loud and the soft parts of the speaking. And it's going to be working pretty much all the time. So in this case, we're going to set a ratio that's much softer than the 10:1 that we had for the limiter. We're going to set this one to 2.5. You can do 2, you can do 3, you can do 4. 2.5 works for me. So we'll just bring down this threshold until we're seeing about maybe 5 or 6 on the gain reduction meter.
Hello, and welcome to the Mastering Show. My name...
So right there, that's way too much. We can hear it immediately turning down the vocal.
Hello, and welcome to the Mastering Show. My name is Ian Shepherd. I'm a mastering engineer, and I run the Production of Device website, where my aim is to help you get the best results recording, mixing, and... Hello, and welcome to the Mastering Show. My name is Ian Shepherd. I'm a mastering engineer, and I run the Production of Device.
So right around there, on this vocal, the threshold is set at -21, but depends on your recording level, all that kind of stuff. We can still hear that as being turned down.
Hello, and welcome to the Mastering Show. My name is Ian Shepherd.
And now it's peaking at -8.1. So we can actually increase the overall output level of this, and we can do that really easily using the wet control on the compressor. So I'm just going to set this to 5. So it's going to be 5 decibels louder than the input, which should bring us right around back where we kind of started with the volume.
Hello, and welcome to the Mastering Show. My name is Ian Shepherd. I'm a mastering engineer, and I run the...
So now the master track is peaking at -3, which is a pretty good level for dialogue. It's not too loud. It's not going to sound distorted. It's well within our loudness meter range that I would like to have. I go for like -14 to -23, which over the course of the episode ends up being about -18 LUFS integrated. Don't worry about those specific numbers and buzzwords and stuff. The basic thing is that it's going to sound consistent and it's going to sound clean. So let's hear this before and after. No effects on the track.
Ian Shepherd. I'm a mastering engineer, and I run the Production of Device website, where my aim is to help you get the best results recording, mixing, and mastering your music.
So that's my strategy. Those are my recommendations for getting a good dialogue sound using just stock REAPER plugins. In my own projects, I'm using plugins from other companies. I'm using some Isotope plugins, some IK Multimedia plugins, and just plugins that I found along the way that I just really enjoy using because they make things a little bit quicker. But I would be completely happy producing a podcast with just these plugins here. The first one I would change would be the noise reduction, and then I would change the compressor. But like I said, these do sound good. They give you all the flexibility that you would need, and you can get this going really quickly. So if you're curious about how this would sound with my regular plugins, Let's duplicate this, and I will clear the effects chain of the second track. And I'll just do this with some other plugins that I would normally use. And actually, I would use ReEQ in this case as well. So ReEQ is one of my most used plugins. But other than that, I would be using the Isotope RX7 voice denoise. And let's solo this.
Ian Shepherd. I'm a mastering engineer and I run the production of device web.
And I basically set it like that. I like this because it has this this slider for adjusting how much of that noise is going to be reduced.
Ian Shepherd. I'm a mastering engineer and I run the production of device website, where my aim is to help you.
And it has different settings for dialogue and music optimization. On occasion, I've used the mouth declick. It's pretty horrifying to hear these with just hear the dialogue with just the clicks. Absolutely disgusting. But this adds a lot of latency, so I don't tend to use it on every project. Often I'll use the white 2A compressor from IK Multimedia. I'll basically just turn up the peak reduction a little bit here.
Ian Shepherd. I'm a mastering engineer and I run the production of device website, where my aim is to help you get the best results recording, mixing.
And that's essentially it for that. And then I'll put on a brick wall limiter on the master track often, but I can put it on just this track. And I just set my output level to -1 or -2.
Ian Shepherd. I'm a mastering engineer and I run the production of device website.
And I just look at my meter.
My aim is to help you get the best results recording, mixing, and mastering your music. And this week I have a guest. It's a little off topic for mastering, but if you've
And so before and after. Before.
Ian Shepherd. I'm a mastering engineer and I run the production of device website, where my aim is to help you get the best results recording, mixing, and mastering your music.
So I keep it pretty simple. I just use some of my favorite plugins, and I try to keep things sounding pretty consistent, but also kind of transparent, natural sounding. I don't like it to sound like it's been compressed. I don't like it to sound like it's been EQ'd or anything like that. So I try to keep things natural, and I get a lot of compliments on the sound of that podcast. This video is sponsored by Skillshare. Skillshare is an online learning community for creators with thousands of classes on art, design, productivity, and more. Skillshare has amazing classes on photography and productivity, and one of my favorite classes right now is Color Grading Introduction with a Pro Colorist. If you use DaVinci Resolve, you're really going to like this. And even if you don't, you're just understanding the world of color grading and the differences between color grading and color correction, that kind of stuff. It's all really, really helpful. If you want to try out Skillshare, you can get 2 months for free. You get premium access to everything. And if you want to continue your membership for a full year, it's about $10 a month. Thank you to Skillshare for sponsoring the video, sponsoring the Reaper blog, supporting creators on YouTube and their own platform. So that's it for this video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you've enjoyed it. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Follow me on Facebook and Twitter. Support the Reaper blog through Patreon. And visit reaperblog.net for a lot more tutorials.